So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I know I'm not tactical. I'm sorry if you think that is his thing. Just saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm gonna keep it 100% real with you. 100% real with you. Antifa and anyone who's delulu enough to go to the No Kings protest, that bullshit. They may call Trump a Nazi or whatever buzzword, but clearly, you people haven't come to present day UK and experienced two. Sorry. You people haven't experienced, you don't want to because you don't care, actual fascism that's going on in my home country, so. At least when it comes to British nationalism, you know, people who lived here, were born and raised here in the UK, or just came here as immigrants legally in some cases. There are some that came here illegally, but at least if their intent is just to be a part of this culture and to get away from whatever war is going on, and actually, be upstanding citizens and whatnot, then I can understand that. So, as Remembrance Day is fastly approaching us. Why did I say fastly? Fast approaching us. There are people who do not care. They really just do not give a fuck about the people of this country, especially ones that stood up to actual acts of fascism back in the day, including World War II veterans of who the fuck can we berate and harass? I probably butchered that last part, but you know what I mean. If you thought I was just talking about the digital ID plan for veterans, it gets much worse. And I'll be the first one to say it. I will welcome the United States government and the U.S. Department of Defense teaming up with Reform UK to start a crusade against those who want to actually harass our war veterans who are still here living ever since the fact of, well, they went through traumatic events. Now, I respect our war veterans. In fact, I would highly recommend everyone, if you're able to, and have enough money to, also provide for your family to give to charity that helps provide for your war veterans. for Frogan, I want you to watch. You're probably not gonna, but I would like to say that I want you to watch this video. And I don't care if you are held at gunpoint by ICE at this point in time. Because you're going to hear what an actual person who fought against the evils of fascism has to say about modern Britain in this video. And if you try to move any goalposts, well, remember what you said about veterans, Frogan, you fat fuck. Now it's my turn to whistle upon you. And I hope you get fucking PTSD for your actions. Self-inflicted PTSD is what you deserve. And I know what a lot of you are probably going to be asking. Why do you want to risk Frogan getting self-deserved PTSD? Allow me to show you this clip. Well, this actual piece of news from Talk TV. A more reliable source than the BBC, might I add. And YouTube just, yeah. Hang on.
Life always throws those tiny
There's gonna be ads during
annoyances at the worst possible moments. A loose screw, a wobbly shelf, a bike pedal that won't stay put.
An
I used to just sigh and say,
Marines Commando and Royal.
But I do like that snowflake tool. That does look interesting. And I have to look into that somewhat. Anyway, moving on.
Ant Middleton is a British TV personality and former UK Special Forces soldier, Royal Marines Commando and Royal Engineer in the British Army. And he is the former chief instructor on the Channel 4 television series SAS Who Dares Wins. He joins us now on Talk Breakfast. Good morning, Ant.
Good morning, Mark. How are you, buddy?
Very well. Thanks for making the time to join us this morning. This viral video has gone viral for a reason. For those just joining us, take a listen to World War II veteran Alec Penstone, who actually regrets the sacrifice made by so many, given the state of the country in 2025. Here he is.
Now keep in mind, the following clip that they are about to show is from ITV News. Now I'm gonna be clear with you. I don't like fascism. And I don't like Marxism, but it's clear that there's a deep-rooted rot within Britain's mainstream media caused by allowing those with far-left ideology or even Islamist ideology to just run amok. Now again, I've made a video prior to this where I talked about how Islamists aren't real Muslims. After all, real Muslims who come here to the UK want to be part of our culture and be upstanding citizens. Like, I got no problem with Pakistanis or anyone from Bangladesh, especially if they just like to be upstanding citizens, are pretty chill, and are happy to work. I mean, without some of the Muslims that come here, we wouldn't have the finest of lovers now in one day. Britain. Well, you know what I'm gonna say. There are some people who clearly want to see this country burn. And there's also Islamists who LARP as Muslims to attack people with extremism and attack them and radicalize people. That's the real problem. And then we have the far left. You have Antifa, you have the Labour Party with Keir Starmer and all that. You even have Robert De Niro. Now, I used to think Robert De Niro was cool, but he's not. He's just an old boomer who's an actor. And apparently, like many Hollywood pundits, he has the TDS. But take that information what you will. Anyway, I'll just clip and see Anthony Milton's reaction. Still, Robert fucking De Niro. My God. If it isn't the UK youth politicians, it's the frickin' elderly. I swear to God.
Given the state of the country in 2025. Here he is speaking to GMB and Kate Garraway and what's the other guy? Adol Ray. Take a listen to this.
Our message is, I can see in my mind's eye those rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though?
What do you mean by that? They are literally asking someone, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry for repeating what Tactical Templar said to Internet Jason here. If you know, but how dare you? How fucking dare you? Because I don't know how a retarded faggot like me ended up seeing everything that's going on and saying, this is probably worse. If it's not as bad as what our veterans had to go through during World War II. Because honestly, I can see that that poor, nice chap went through a lot. Why is it that the mainstream media, the far left, caney killjoys, who need to shut the fuck up for once in their lives to actually hear what people are saying? Why is it that they cannot? Honestly, I think we already know at this point. I think we already fucking know at this point.
Oh, what we fought for, was our freedom. We find that even now it's downside worse than what it was when I fought for it.
And Middleton, the fight was not worth it, the sacrifice. Is Alec Penstone right?
She dances, not just to move, but to awaken something forgotten.
Is Alec Penstone right?
The quick answer to that is yes, Mark, he's right. And I think it goes a lot deeper than the interview. And I wouldn't expect someone like Adil Ray to understand what he meant, hence why he went, what do you mean by this? I'd love to have grabbed, Adil Ray by the scruff of the neck and thrown him back to 1944 on the landing crafts, on the beaches of Normandy, so he could actually see the carnage and the real sacrifices that these gentlemen made, and also for him to look to his left and to his right and realise that they look nothing like him. For him to have the audacity to say, what do you mean? God, that angered a lot of people, and I think that's one of the reasons why the video...
At this point, it's clear what... We all know what Adil Ray is all about. Like, this is serious. So serious, in fact, that I need to point this out. Because Adil Ray, that slimy Islamist freak, said out with all his chest on places like X and Blue Sky, but more preferably for him, Blue Sky, that he supports Saram Mandani being the mayor of New York. And Saram Mandani, in case you may or may not have forgotten, I hope a lot of people haven't, personally, blazes Hassan Piker, who not only himself is a sympathizer towards Antifa, Islamic State probably, as well as the Houthis. Hassan's a dog abuser. just explains an example of what kind of people Adil Ray wants in his friend circle.
Went viral.
What was he getting at? Because Jane has texted me about that, and she said, Mark, surely the worst part of that interview was Adil Ray asking what Alec meant. How ridiculous. What do you think Adil Ray was playing at when he said that?
He was basically baiting, wasn't he? Let's be honest, like a lot of politicians do nowadays. Sadiq Khan is a great rage baiter when it comes to that. We all know what he meant. He didn't need to reply to that. He didn't need to ask that question. Now, this goes a lot deeper, as I said, to many veterans. Many veterans will agree with you, if not all veterans, with Alec. Many serving personnel, and I probably speak for the majority or the vast majority, will agree with Alec, apart from the higher echelons of the MOD that are being used as a political tool, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But when you look at modern day society, this is what Alec meant. Modern day society and the sacrifices, of thousands of individuals, of Brits, abroad. This isn't on our shores. This is going from our shores to prevent our shores from being breached or invaded in the first place. To go abroad and to give your life, and for many of them not to come back and to be buried abroad, the sacrifice, looking at modern day society and looking at the invasion of our shores now, military-aged, fighting-age males, coming over undocumented, unchecked, just being let through our Navy, let's call it, our primary line of defense, which are
No, I'm gonna agree with Aunt Milton here. These people that fought in World War II gave up everything and keep in mind, it's not just women going to war, it's also women working the factory jobs back in the day, making the ammunition. Because all the men were going into war. I mean, there were even some children, young boys, going into war. I would not be surprised if there were like girls aged 14 to 16 working the factory lines as well. All in an effective effort to prevent actual fascists from taking over our country. And for them to have everything they've ever worked for go down the gutter because some cranky-dink prime minister and an entire party of Islamist loonies decided to run amok with this country and take taxpayers' money and just allow. Look, I'm sorry. How many more neighborhoods in the UK are gonna wind up ending like the streets of Birmingham? the problem. The problem is letting an actual fascist like Stama be in control. And if it isn't Stama, then it's the Islamists that are being the ones that are fascist. So remember my comment about me resting Frogan having herself and her past actions giving her PTSD. This is why. It's because these people do not fucking care. The Islamists do not care. Now I do want to say that it's the Islamists. Now I'm sure Aunt Middleton does care. I 100% am sure of it. But to see this country, no. Nuh-uh. There are people making online seminars on how to make sure to defend yourself in public. And there are even extremists going around hitting people with freaking baseball bats. I'm sorry, but the police, at this point in time, cannot be okay about sitting around doing nothing because the government ordered them to. It's time. It's goddamn time the people stood up for themselves. Because these Islamists, they attacked us, provoking us, even. They attacked us unprovoked. And I'm sorry for repeating myself there, but I just need to point that out. And come high water, if the police departments keep, and the military keep getting forced to be told to keep going on and on about being diverse when they're not really, they're homophobic pieces of shit if they continue with their performative inclusivity. Gonna be real. And to be fair, that is what was happening. And allow me to say it. people are gonna keep pushing back. They're gonna keep pushing back. Right up until the breaking point comes when finding a peaceful solution will never be an answer. At least not with some people. Now, what was it that Stoic Fast said in How to Train Your Dragon 2? When he was confronting Hiccup about facing off against the dragon hunters and their leader. Men without reason cannot be reasoned with. And unfortunately, those are the type of men, and sometimes even women, that are currently around in this country, that are being heard right now. Now, it doesn't matter if they were born biologically their genders, or if they, got circumcision or whatever. And it doesn't even matter for bedside preferences. I think it's clear we're facing an epidemic of people without reason that cannot be reasoned with.
Our waters. Now, we've got 3 lines of defence. Our waters should be run by the Navy. Our shores, if our shores are invaded, the Army then take hold. And if it's our skies, it's our phenomenal RAF. And I think when he looks at that from a military perspective, we are failing on every metric when it comes to our MOD. And because he fought in the military, the British military, for our country, I can totally understand where he's coming from, how he's felt let down, and how the sacrifice in modern day society wasn't worth the result.
Well, sadly, that is the sentiment of the video, which is why it's made such a splash. And it's not just the boats, is it, Ant? It's also the colossal scale of legal net migration in which the country has changed beyond belief at incredible pace, and a policy for which no one voted.
Absolutely. And again, this is so many sort of verticals to this. You look at the current state of safety and security in the UK. Let's not even mention London. Let's go talk about the UK. What Alec mentions about sacrifices, British lives were sacrificed in order so we could have a safe and secure country, that it didn't reach our shores. Now, whether this is extremists, whether this is illegal immigration, whatever's happening in the UK right now, British lives are being taken on a daily basis. And this goes back to, again, why it goes a lot deeper. British lives are being taken, whether it's our children, we can go back to Southport, whether it's British lives being stabbed on the streets. We go back to the maniac that went on that rampage and stabbed or tried to murder 8 to 10 people. These are British lives that are being taken, nobody else. So when he talks about the sacrifice of British lives from World War I and World War II, ultimately what's happening in the UK as well, we can see those sacrifices being made on our shores And I think that's the result that he talks of as well. British lives are being taken on a daily basis due to a failure of government, due to a failure of safety and security, and due to a failure of the utilisation of our military.
Is it a defence to say that people like Axel Radicobana and the person that's now being charged for this attack in Cambridgeshire were British born?
Listen, it's not about race, it's not about religion, it's about culture and law and order. This is what's real. We get distracted by that. We're in a religious. No, it's not about religion. It's not about race. You know, it's never been about that. It's about culture, the preservation of British culture. We can preserve our British culture. In turn, we preserve British law and order, which is huge. And then in turn, we preserve British lives, because British law and order is intertwined with British culture, which is, you know, gives us our freedom, gives us a fair trial, gives us safety, or should give.
I wanted, and I'm sorry for interrupting at Middleton here, but I want to point out Japan is making efforts to prevent cultural interference in regards to anime and manga. Let that fucking sink in. Japan, a country that has been the target of a harassment campaign by the tolerant far left, is fighting back, saying, you know what? Screw it. You are not involved in any part of what we have to say about our freedom of expression. Now, will Hollywood find ways to water it down with the rest of the West in general, with the insane ideologies of the far left? Probably, but I'm just saying, if video games can heal with stuff like Bolt Gun 2 and Arc Raiders, I have a pretty good feeling that things will get better. And if not, well, I'm just saying, I've been buying myself a nice, healthy stack of PSP games. I got my 3DS, I got 3DS games, and I got DS games. And as for Let's Play videos here on the YouTube channel, by the way, in regards to video games being okay, regardless of what Delulu crazy people have to say, I can't believe I'm saying this after the whole Twitch causes radicalization thing, but yes, Twitch it up a bit, because Twitch W. I bet good old Jeff Bezos feels really ashamed about, laying off a ton of people now. Well, that depends depends if those people were competent. And considering one of the guys that was fired was the one who made Brits' fraud detection system, I'm just saying, major room for improvement for the fraud detection. Many a VTuber got harassed by that piece of shit programming. But yeah, score one for Brits, I guess. But yeah, the point remains. I've still got plenty of things to keep me entertained. I've also got some nice DVDs. I haven't seen Summer Wars yet. Good thing I picked myself a copy of the DVD at CX that I go to that's nearby, so you know, I'm happy. I get to watch anime still. But yeah, besides the point, though, I'm just saying, too long don't read version is if Japan's making more of an effort to protect its cultural identity from outside forces. And I'm just saying, youth parliament. Yeah, the UK is essentially cooked at this point. If people don't take a stand against this whole nonsense about, you know, having people come into this country and just killing people and taking away the British identity. Look, we're not saying you can't have curry. We're just saying you can't use our swans to make them.
Safety and security. So actually we have a huge law and order problem and a huge identity problem, which is our British culture, because our British culture is being suppressed. When it's suppressed, we have a lack of identity, and when we have a lack of identity, we have a lack of purpose, a lack of belonging, and guess what happens? Frustration, anger, and violence. And we are in that anger phase at the moment, and we're teetering into violence very, very soon, which needs to be prevented. That stage needs to be prevented at all costs. But the layout of the land in the UK, my ear is very close to the ground, Mark, and the trembles, you know, the cries that I can hear cannot go unattended, you know, cannot go unheard. And we, you know, the UK is an unsafe place to be, as many countries will tell you right now, and it needs turning on its head ASAP. But if we can preserve our British culture and our law and order, everything else should fall into place.
And preserving British culture, our values, our traditions, everything that makes the country great, and law and order are not possible with levels of illegal immigration that we're currently experiencing, which is 50,000 people plus per year. And it's also not compatible with mass
50,000 people plus. Let me put that into perspective for all of you that are not here in the United Kingdom. That is 50,000 plus men coming into this country to not only kill but potentially abuse and rape women and children, as well as the Brits men. You can't make this shit up.
Legal immigration either.
It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And because we're being governed by external politics, which is being used against our British culture and against British citizens and British natives, it's impossible at the moment. This is why we need a new government in place. We need a preservation, like I said. We need to really preserve our British culture and really dig into the law and order and how that should be completely stripped down and rejigged.
Yeah. Is it too late though, Ant? Is the damage done?
No, it's never too late, Mark. It's never too late. And it's people like yourself, like myself.
Honestly, I agree with this statement wholeheartedly, 100%. But that still doesn't mean the damage hasn't been done. We can recover from it. But if there's scars, they don't heal. Scars fade. And even then, you still see the scars. Still feel them. Also, unrelated topic, but if your kids are watching Mr. Beast, don't let them watch Mr. Beast anymore. Bro's clearly siding with the whole concept of Sharia law. Parents, be warned.
And for me, like the likes of Nigel Farage, that are stepping forward, that are stepping in to implement drastic change. Now we're at the stage where change is not enough. It's not a case of let's do a few policies here and there and amend this. We need drastic change. We need drastic change in government. We need drastic change within within the mayoral positions across the UK. And we can only hold out for hope until the general election and those mayoral elections come along. But please do hold out for hope, because there are good British people that are stepping up and stepping forward.
And what would that drastic change look like? I know you've had your eye on the mayoralty of London, but whoever gets into number 10 at the next election, if they are going to be somebody that represents radical change, what would it look like? What levers would you pull to save this country, Ant?
I think some zero tolerance policies need to come into play. And that goes all the way from the bottom. When people think about zero tolerance policies, they think about gun crime, knife crime, the obvious ones, but just all the way down to phone theft. People aren't just nicking your phones, they're nicking your bank details, they're nicking your identity, they're pinching absolutely everything. So these zero tolerance policies from all levels, from ground level all the way up, are absolutely crucial, along with accountability policies.
Honestly, all I'm hearing are based ideas. Now, a bit of IRL law, I can't even speak. Hang on. That's good. Okay. So as I was trying to say to you guys, a bit of IRL lore for you guys is when I was younger, I can't remember exactly. I think it was around maybe 20, '15 or 2017. I don't know. All I know is that there was one time I was visiting my dad during the winter holidays with my older sister and the older brother. Now, my parents are not married. In fact, my mom's married to my stepfather, and so we've had our moments in the past, and that was on me because I couldn't handle the change of having my stepfather because, yeah, I was a dumb autistic kid. And, I always thought it was unfair that both my mom and dad weren't together, and it really hurt me because, oh, I always felt embarrassed and ashamed that my parents weren't together. Like, I don't know how people think it's embarrassing to be in a relationship, as in boyfriend, girlfriend, 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 boyfriend, boyfriend, trans friend, trans friend. You know what I mean, right? They thought that's embarrassing. Well, I thought it was embarrassing to, have parents that weren't divorced because they weren't even married. And yet, there's still somewhat, in some way, shape, or form, around for me and looking out for me. Now, both my mom and dad are still around, don't worry. But, yeah. I was visiting my dad during the winter holidays, and my older sister wanted to head outside for a bit. Hang out with some of her friends and just doing her own thing. However, it was around this time that we didn't know where she was because Dad was calling her since we were all getting kind of worried, and she wasn't even picking up the phone, but then she arrived back and, well, she explained everything. And she dropped her phone because she was a bit clumsy at the time and nearly slipped on some ice, I think. But my memory of the event was still somewhat kind of hazy. I think I was playing a lot of video games, probably Borderlands too. I don't know. But yeah, see, no, actually, I think I was playing on my DS. But yeah. The whole thing was kind of scary for me because I was there when Dad told her that since she dropped her phone and didn't check to go back for it, it's probably gone missing by now, and someone took it. Now, this is very scary, especially nowadays, considering Stomach still wants to push digital ID. Now, I'm sure there's many places that already has digital ID implemented. Blue collar states. But let me be crystal clear. If people get a hold of your phone, they are easily going to be able to hack it, and they are going to get your personal information. And it doesn't matter what bells and whistles you have, because the factory design and the big phone companies want to, add all those silly little features and pretend some of them are for security. No. If your phone gets taken, your electronic device that isn't, say, like a retro gaming console gets taken, it's over. You're done. You can't, be allowed to be identified as yourself, especially with digital ID. Like, you could be long gone in places like Venezuela or something. This is why I'm, kind of fearful about digital ID being in the UK, and also the fact that people are not being educated on the difference between an actual Muslim and an Islamist. It's scary. I'm gonna admit it. It's scary.
People and organizations need to be held to account. Once you hold someone to account and you put them through a certain system, then you watch how they get to work and how actually they uphold a certain law, they uphold a certain policy when you thrust them into the limelight. So I think good zero tolerance policies, which in turn act as deterrent policies, and some overlaying accountability policies. They need to be implemented with immediate effect with anyone getting into some kind of power.
And I've received an absolutely full message board in relation to what you've had to say. Tom in Northumberland says, Mark, as an army veteran, Ant speaks for me and millions of other veterans. Totally agree with Ant Middleton, says Francis in Sussex. And similarly, MBPK says, Mark, I agree with everything that Ant Middleton is saying. I feel exactly the same. And thank you so much for joining us. I do hope we can continue this conversation in the near future. My thanks there to former military hero, definitely Marines star, the one and only, Ant Middleton.
So, yeah. I think it's safe to say that at the end of the day, as much as many people who want to, be all gung-ho about being inclusive and tolerant, when really they're just doing it to be performative and be violent towards people they don't like. It's oddly enough as straight people, whether or not they're Jewish, Christian, or whatever, it's really not about religion at this point. Like Ann Middleton says, but these people, they won't, and I do mean Antifa and Islamists, those types of people, they will not care. But yeah, people need to start being accountable. And after what Pamela Warmer did, I think the BBC are gonna be the first target. But yeah, I think it's safe to say, unless you're wanting to go through hell and actually fight any extremist that's either Antifa, Islamist, whatever other third or fourth party, and think you can get away with it without having the police detect you here in the UK, because apparently defending yourself in this country is considered a crime. Yeah, I know. Insert joke about Brits being dumb here by a Yank. I know. But honestly, fitting at this point. At least with the police. Because, yeah. Besides this and, well, Section 16, in regards to people coming into private property, and by people I mean police officers, I'm just gonna say it. Civil services, hell, even the UK military needs to stop being complacent about their gullibility as to what the government here tells them to. Like, shaking my head at this point.